Hey, welcome to the Fine Print, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Caleb Teskey, coming at you with a little impromptu joint today on sort of short notice, but I wanted to squeeze this one in. So you guys might remember, well, before I do that, we got any homework off the top we got to do? Oh, yeah, right. I had recently had Dee French on the show, local MC here in Vermont, Massachusetts. Just put out a great new album called All Saints Day. I had a really great time talking to Dee. Seems like my kind of guy. And then I had Marty Rollins, who was the subject of this book, Flying High, the Great Cannabis Caper, where they were flying in plane loads of weed from Colombia and got in a little bit of trouble. Talvin White out in Illinois from the Canna Farm Dispensary. Janet Gray Bernor from the Miss Lindenville Diner. Still looking for someone to buy the diner, guys. And, of course, our new lieutenant governor here, John Rogers, was with me not too long ago. Yeah. And I got some good stuff coming up here that I'm keeping kind of under my hat for now. But you guys may recall some time ago, I was contacted by a guy who was in prison in Indonesia for smuggling some weed into the country. And just recently he got back to me and he told me he's been released. And I thought, we got to get him back on the show and see how he's doing here and see what the plan is from here. So, guys, please welcome back to the show. It's Josh Emery. Josh.
Hey guys, thanks for having me, Caleb. Appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure, dude. And sorry, guys, there might be a little traffic in the background, but
yeah, I apologize, guys.
That's all right. So Josh, before we catch up, would you mind, for people who didn't see our last interview, could you maybe give them the quick version of how you ended up in your predicament?
Yeah, so I've been living in Indonesia, Bali, for about 3 years at the time of my incarceration. I was in a really tough position. Long story short, my ex-girlfriend had drained my bank account, broken anything of value, computer, basically anything, stole my phone, which enabled her to drain my bank account. So I was in a really tough position. I'm not blaming her, but it is, in a sense, the way things led up kind of put me in that position. So I had a pound of weed sitting in America, and I had a friend send it to me, and I got arrested. So I was looking at 14 years prison time in Indonesia for a pound of weed that I was using medically. And so I basically had to bribe the judges, bribe the police, bribe the prosecutors. This is all normal, believe it or not, to get a sentence of 4 years, 2 months. And I adjusted to their, as best I could, to their laws and to their ways of life down there. And went through my 4 years of incarceration, or I did 3.5 years of incarceration. I went to basically 4 different prisons while I was there. I went from luxury whenever Caleb interviewed me, where I had my own room. I was able to order food from outside. I had a phone. Time I had a computer. I even had my own room, which is very unusual. I cooked my own food. I had my own kitchen that I had bought everything in, and then moved to a. One morning they came to me and said, "Hey, come on out. The warden wants to talk to you," and basically marched me up to the front and said, "You're moving." I had nothing, and they ran back and grabbed some clothes and some items for me. So I had a little bit of something, and got transferred to another prison, a smaller one, that seemed to be full of pedophiles, drug dealers, and a lot of criminals. Obviously, you're in prison, so.
Can I slow you down before you talk about moving? Because I was kind of just blown away. When you first contacted me, you were like, "Yeah, I'm in jail in Indonesia." I was like, "Wow, you somehow you got a hold of me. You had internet, and that seemed pretty unusual to me."
Okay.
Do you have? I mean, I'm guessing that's not the norm. In most prisons I've been to, you're lucky to get a little bit of internet access, but you had the phone, sounded like you had books and everything.
Yeah. Indonesia's a little bit different. The guards, everybody has their hand out for a bribe. These bosses, quote unquote, they have a lot of times they'll have their crew in there. They'll recruit new people, and so they're all working from prison. If you look up Probicon Hotel Cray and read the books, what's her name, Bonatella, she talks about all this stuff, how they're working in from prison a lot of times. Like, I've heard stories of rooms packed with kilos of weed, packed with uh, kilos of sabu and weapons. These guys have guns in prison. It's like the stuff that they tell me, and um that goes on, especially in Hotel K, but it goes on in all the prisons there. Not to the volume or to the extreme of Hotel K, Probicon, but it happens. That's kind of the go to, because these guards, let's say they're making $400 a month, which is like a decent wage for somebody down in Indonesia. Um, but it's still not a lot of money. You have a family, you have all these expenses. So, you know, let's say like 100K is like $6 to us. Wait, is it? Yeah, it's $6 or $7 depending on the exchange rate. And if they make that a day, it adds up for them. So, you know, um, that's kind of their MO. Extort the prisoners, get money from them for phones, for sex, for drugs, for alcohol. All these things happen. It's a regular occurrence.
Hmm. Okay, I just wanted to stop you there for a minute before you talked about getting transferred, because I remember just at first I didn't believe you. I was like, "There's no way this motherfucker's contacting me from jail in Asia," but there you were.
Yeah. I had a good friend that had a podcast in Corobicon, and he tried to make a world record of how long he could go on this podcast or on this live stream. And he was telling me about the meth and all this stuff that was going on in there. He threw a birthday party, and I think he spent like 30 or 40 million, which is, again, divided by 7. So whatever that is, I can't do the math off the top of my head, but it's a decent amount of money. He was a foreigner. He was from Germany, and they give their prisoners, what was it, 4.5 million a month. So this guy was getting money from his government to live, and like, that's living like a king in there. I mean, you have that kind of money, and you can pretty much do whatever you want.
The German government was sending him money in jail.
Yeah, they're a socialist government. So as soon as he got out, he got like $1,400 a month.
Well, maybe I need to go to jail over there.
Well, you need to be a German citizen. The U.S. government didn't do anything for me. I actually owe them money for my operation. So, yeah.
All right. So, Josh, now you were in this kind of nicer jail, and then you said they transferred you. Tell us where they sent you.
So they sent me to another prison. Gosh, I'm trying to remember the name of it right now, and it's slipping my mind. It's just another small prison, smaller than the one I was at, more crowded than the one I was at. The first room I went in had 25 to 30 people in there, and I ended up paying for this kind of like cubbyhole underneath. So it was like people slept across the top, and then there was like kind of these cubby holes that were like I wouldn't say it was 2.5 feet height in there. So you would slide in there and basically be in there hot as heck, man, just sweating bullets all day, all night. And I lasted in that room. I don't do well with that kind of environment. I lasted maybe a month in there, and then they moved me to a different room. And again, it was like 10 people, and it doesn't work for me. I can't live like that. So I soon got transferred back to that high security prison um, that I was at before I went to that other prison, the farm prison, and it was actually a blessing in disguise, believe it or not. I showed up there, and they screen you, they strip search you, and walking in, and everybody kind of shows it like they know all these people are coming in, and they all know, oh, this bully, that's they call bully foreigners bullies there. Um, this bully's coming in, and they all knew who I was because I was in a prison with these guys before, and so I had, let's say, like 10 friends, which are still my friends, really really close. I built a bond with these people that those people that have been to prison know about the bonds that you build with these guys. It's a brotherhood in a sense. And because I had contact with a lot of these guys, some of them from the the first prison when I got arrested. So I had the friendship with them from that. It was kind of like a welcome, if for better words, welcome home, because I had that connection with these guys. Um, well, the prison guards put me in isolation. I think I had some sort of tail on me saying that this guy was trouble, blah blah blah. So I went in isolation for 26 days, which didn't bother me actually too much because of the fact that I was with all these slammed in a room with 10 other people. It was nice to be away from them. Unfortunately, I didn't have any books. I didn't have anything to read, anything to take up my time. So there was that. Just pure boredom. And Christmas came around. They let us out for they're very religiously oriented down there, and it basically like doesn't matter what religion they're accepting of it, which is actually really quite nice. Um, so they let us out for Christmas, and then like I think 2 or 3 days after that, or maybe it could even be the next day, they let us out of the isolation, and then I went to a medical dorm, which I had been in before when I first went there for like 2 weeks. So I knew a lot of the guys from in there, um, was familiar with the scene. Um, I went into a room which they put a couple of these bosses in there that had paid for that room, and I was kind of covered because I actually had a medical reason to be in that dorm, and these guys didn't. Um, and that lasted a night. These guys snored like a bear, and then the other guy woke up in the middle of the night yelling, and I was like, dude, I can't sleep. I start like kind of got into it with these guys. They went in the morning and talked to them. We're like, hey, we paid for this room. I don't know exactly what they said, but I think it was kind of like, hey, we paid for this room. This isn't working with this guy. Can you move him? So I got my own room for about 4 to 5 months. And then they started putting people in there, and 1 or 2 people. And that was difficult to begin with. And then one of the guys, we like, we couldn't speak to each other, the language barrier. And a couple of my friends were like, hey man, this guy's a really good guy, like he'll help you out. And then things kind of, with me and him, things switched, and he became like one of my biggest advocates and biggest helpers. He cleaned the room, he did everything, and like I just basically gave him a little bit of food here and there. And he's one of my, I would call him a brother now. Even though we have a language barrier, the guy's awesome dude. He's Unfortunately, I think he's doing like 9 years or some long stretch. He's a repeat offender, and he will probably be incarcerated for most of his life. Realistically, he's my age. I think he's 50 something. So he'll get out when he's probably almost 60. Um, and unfortunately, he doesn't have any skills. He doesn't have any sort of job experience. He's a hustler, and it's kind of like a lot of people down there, and they're all in there for entrapment. The police don't really do any investigations unless you're like a big case, or they just don't. It's all entrapment. It's all these people telling on each other. Um, so yeah, I was in that room, and he came in, and we started to bond, and then they moved me to a different room with a bunch of foreigners. You gotta remember, like, a lot of these people are in that dorm because they are crazy, and so I got put in. So I got put in the room that I was in before when I first went there, and it was all foreigner room. And so I was familiar with the guys, and one of these guys was like straight up crazy. Like, he had a bunch of issues. Actually, both. Like, one of them was a lifer, and then one of them was this French guy that had got wrapped up in a smuggling thing and really shouldn't have been in the smuggling game in the beginning. Like, he's not like per se a criminal, if you want to consider drugs a criminal crime, you know. Um, and it was just, I was right next to this black guy that was part of where was he? He was from Nigeria or somewhere right in there, and he was smuggling.
That's nice.
Shut off. He was smuggling heroin in, and he had, when he did his crime, he did his crime without the backing of his gang, so he was kind of just left in there. The gang really didn't help him out too much. So yeah, just experiencing other people's life, or their misfortune was a heavy thing to be in there. And these guys were like serving 14 to 18 years.
Well, yeah, you said this one guy's in there doing life, and you're in there for a pound of weed. I mean, that's kind of a stark contrast.
Yeah, same room. He's Malaysian, actually, really nice guy. Just a lot of these people are, unfortunate circumstances. They don't really have a lot of. If you've ever been involved in drugs, that's not really a choice people really want to do. No, it's more like circumstances. This is a way to make money, and they get caught up. So, and it's very much like that there.
I think you said at the first prison when I first talked to you, a lot of guys were in there for meth or something.
Oh yeah, meth. They call it shabu down there. It's ridiculous. Most, I'd say about 80 to 90% of the prisoners are in there for meth.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a really big epidemic down there. I didn't even know it was a big deal until probably shortly before I got arrested. One of my friends, associates, or whatever, told me, kind of, a local guy kind of gave me the breakdown of, yeah, everybody's here. Everybody likes this meth stuff. And like, oh, not me. That's not my game.
And there was one other thing I wanted to back you up on for a second, because you caught me off guard with your comment about being in isolation. I was going to assume it was miserable, but you said just due to the fact that before you were in a room with so many other people that it was actually like kind of a reprieve in a way.
For me, it was a reprieve. Luckily, so typically the guy right next to me that came from the same prison that was my friend, is still my friend. They took all his clothes. they left him in there with boxers and feeding him rice and salt. Fortunately, I was able to hold on to my clothes. They gave me a towel to actually cover myself, so I had a little bit of creature comforts, and then they fed me normal food. For me, like I said, just being away from people was really nice. I got to actually have my mind space back and kind of just, focus on myself, meditate, pray a lot. Just yeah. So for me, it was a blessing in disguise. For my neighbor, it was miserable, and most like you're in a cell by yourself, and the guy next to me is in a cell by himself. So on, down the road, down the lane, or whatever you want to call it, the block, and all these guys are in there wearing boxers, freezing.
Are you in there like 24 hours a day, or do they let you out at all?
Yep, they don't let you out
For 26 days, just fucking total lockdown.
Yep, we got out that one day for Christmas, and went back into our cells. At that time, some of the foreigners in there, they gave me some food and said, "Hey, you'll be out in a few days." The most they can keep you in there. Well, before I got there, there was people in there for months. There was a guy, like the very first guy in the same. I think he was in there for 5 months.
Wow.
And yeah, he was crazy, and he kept on having problems fighting people. He got out of isolation shortly after. I want to say probably another month and a half, 2 months, maybe even longer than that. After I got out, he went into the same ward I was, and soon after the prisons all ran by prisoners. The guards really, like, the only thing they do is count, and like I guess like the the family sent food in and other goods for their loved ones, and so they go through and search the goods and whatnot like that. But everything else was pretty much ran by prisoners, and they sit there and play on their phones all day, and the only thing pretty much they do is account. So it's pretty a drastic difference between America and here.
Now, I know initially you had told me that, I think you mentioned this earlier, but initially when you contacted me, you said you're having some health problems. So you were trying to raise money for some surgeries. Whatever ended up happening with that?
Yeah, so I had my gallbladder. I had a very large stone in my gallbladder, and I had the gallbladder removed in prison. I took a loan out from the U.S. government to pay for that, and still, I don't know. They haven't contacted me. They haven't done anything. I'm kind of like, what am I supposed to do with this? And I just kind of wait for them to either seize my bank account or come after me for some money. And so, yeah, that's kind of the deal with that. Surgery went pretty well. It was actually I spent 5 days in the hospital. I had my own room, which was beautiful. I mean, this surgery probably would have cost me like 50 grand here. Realistically, 5 days in a hospital,
at least probably.
At least it cost me $2,200.
Damn, and if you were a German citizen, apparently they could have paid for it for you.
Yeah. Oh, somebody's asking me how long I was in prison for.
That's Jeremiah Bingham. Thanks for tuning in there, Jeremiah.
Yeah, thanks, Jeremiah. So I was sentenced to 4 years, 2 months, and I served 3.5 years of that.
Did they give you any good time for good behavior?
That was the good time. So kind of how it goes there is you get good time for Christmas, for whatever your religious holiday is, and I'm a Christian, and so I got Christmas and their Independence Day, so that's like August 16th. And so kind of how it goes is your first whatever your it's like 6 months, and then you're able to get good time. So whichever comes first, either the August date or Christmas date, you get like 15, and then it's 30 days, and then it's 45, and then it's blah blah blah, right? So it stacks up the longer you're in there. Um, the locals are able to get what is basically parole or probation if their families, and there's kind of a lot of things that got to line up for them to get it, but most, I would say 95 to 95% of their population gets the the probation. I met a couple guys that didn't have family, or the, let's just call it, the municipality, their city wouldn't sign for them. So I met, like, I want to say 2, maybe 3 guys that didn't get parole. So it's very rare.
And so they don't parole like foreigners who are locked up.
No.
Hmm.
I take that back. They do if there's an agreement with their government. So like the German guy that I was talking about, he got a parole. He was on in there for a very long sentence, and he got 5 years off his sentence for parole. He can't leave Indonesia, which is kind of weird because they extradited me right away.
Yeah, I was gonna say on the phone, I thought you said like you were immediately deported.
Yeah. So I'll give you a little synopsis of the prison that I was at, and then we'll go into my deportation. So I arrived at this prison. I did, the 26 days in isolation. Then they put me into the block where I was. And like I said, I had quite a few friends there, and there's quite a few people that spoke English, which was really nice, believe it or not, because those other prisons there was nobody, like nobody that really spoke fluent English, or a couple guys that did. So it was like, just like being able to tell a joke, or like, like the innuendos that we toss out there that everybody kind of understands. Like nobody understood that. So, I just, at those other prisons, I would just sit in my room. I'd be on my phone watching, podcasts such as this, or
Come on.
other stuff. Trying to get some education. I've read a lot, and now I'm working on writing a book. So if you guys could follow my Instagram, it's at Joshua Emery _ I
Yeah, and
appreciate that.
I put that in the description too, in the video, the YouTube description. So if you guys want to check that out, and I'm certainly curious to see what you're going to write about. There was another thing I wanted to touch on real quick. You skipped ahead to the book. I was going to say that to last, but you also mentioned that you got a little bit of help from the Last Prisoner Project.
I did, yeah.
I was curious how you got in touch with them, or how they got in touch with you, and how that played out.
So kind of, as I got in touch with you, I've been talking to a lot of their staff about my situation, and it took a lot of work to actually get any support, because they don't, the programs in the U.S. focus on U.S. prisoners typically, and Randy Lanier, I guess him and his team made an executive decision to help support me. And so when I got out, they I'm sorry, I need to go back a little bit, because they were supporting me while I was in prison. I'd get basically about $100 a month, which really helped out a lot in there. I was able to buy my food. It was it was basically $300 every 3 months, so it turned out to be about $100 a month. So I had that, and then I had some support from my friends and family that gave me money every once in a while when they could. And it doesn't cost a lot to live in there. I was living above average means, and a lot of these people, they don't have anything, so they don't have barely family, nothing to support. So I was privileged in that sense, and I'm very thankful for Randy Lanier and Last Prisoner Project and all the other people that helped support and donated to my GoFundMe. It really helped me out. Thank you so much again. So yeah, then I got out and they contacted me and said, "Hey, we give $1,000 to prisoners that were released to help them get back into society." So that helped me out getting back into society and getting the things, clothes and food and all the other things that you don't have when you get out. So, um, so yeah, that's pretty much that. I wanted to talk more about the prisons that I was in. You guys can watch if you watch Most Dangerous Prisons. Lee Plastique is the name of the prison that I was at, and they have a full uh, thing on Netflix about that prison. It is by far not the most dangerous prison in the world. There was no violence at all. It's the guards don't treat you like American prisoners, how they treat people here. Um, it's a drastic difference. So, at this prison, it's a high security prison. You're allowed out of your room for 2.5 hours a day. So, I wanted to, at that, when I got there, I was dealing with gout. I could hardly walk.
Oh,
Yeah, it was really bad in my feet. So, I wanted to get back in shape. So I started doing what I could, walking, just any exercise I possibly could for those 2.5 hours that you get out a day. Uh, soon after being there, being this Russian guy, he's a brother of mine. I love this guy, Jenny. He's about to get out in about maybe 2 weeks. Yeah, he's getting out this next month, and I'm really excited about that. We teamed up, and if you guys know anything about Russians and working out, it's in their blood. They're trained. They do this from a very young age. Their whole society is basically it's centered around nutrition and working out, and it's so this guy had a lot of experience. He used to be a professional fighter, really in good shape, and we got together and put it we went to work. We would the 2.5 hours we'd go out there, and just 5 days a week we'd be going at it. And I was able to buy some bands and buy some stuff to help us work out. So I got in really good shape. I can share some pictures with you if you want to see some of those. I'd love.
you get some jacked pictures? Yeah, you can share your screen.
Let me see. How do I add?
At the bottom, there's a little box that says present, and you should be able
Okay.
to click on that and hit add screen, and then it'll pop it up in the studio, and then I can put it up.
Okay. Yeah. So we got in good shape. I gained a brother, and yeah, it was really. I wouldn't say it was cool, but it was nice having somebody that was kind of on the same wavelength, and having somebody to work out with, having a friend there, and yeah, so we worked out for a while. He got in some trouble and was transferred to a different block, so we couldn't work out so much together. Oh, it's not letting me do that. Yeah, it's saying it's got problems. Anyway, so we got to working out, and he got transferred. About that time, they put in a new kitchen, and one of my good friends that from the other prison, I was teaching English there, and he was one of my students, and he was the head chef at the kitchen, and he he treated me like a brother and showed me so much love with the other guys that were in the kitchen. They all became my friends. So it's a kitchen and then a printing press right next to it, printing shop, and then a laundry service. And all the guys that were down in this little area became my really good friends. Um, it's so crazy, man. You can get your laundry done. It was like, what was it, 5K a kilo, which is like nothing. I don't even like 10 cents is 10K is like 6 cents. So to get your laundry done in prison is cost you nothing basically. So it had that. My when I didn't have money, my friends just kind of slipped me some food and fed me, and there's really a brotherhood when it comes to this, especially when you have a good attitude, which I really tried to maintain in there. It was difficult.
Yeah. So what's the deal? I'm curious. Like, they, what was your release date? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was October 16th.
And so they release you, and you're like immediately back on a plane headed for the States.
Pretty much, yeah. So they release me. Immigration comes, picks me up, brings me to the immigration center. I had a flight booked already for that night. So they process my paperwork, go drop me off at the airport. Sayonara. So I flew back. I flew to Korea. I was in Korea for like 6, 7 hours. Went into Korea, Seoul, and got to check that out a little bit, which was really kind of cool. I mean,
Have a
I
couple
could
drinks or something.
check check that off the checklist. I've been in Korea, uh, and then flew to L.A. Had a friend pick me up. Had a place for me to stay for a little while. Uh, so I stayed there. Got started to try to get back on my feet, and unfortunately, that didn't last for very long. It lasted for about a month, and I was expecting 3 to 6 months at this place. And they asked me to leave, so I left the home and kind of been homeless since then. I've been
Yeah.
bouncing around. I stayed at hostels, hotels, so on and so forth. Right now, I am in Tijuana,
Oh,
and
no shit.
yeah, I am homeless. Cross the border whenever I have work or whatnot, and come back here and live. And I've been, man, it's been a crazy, crazy trip since I've been back. This last 4 months, 5 months, however long it's been. Um, so I was staying at this hostel in Pacific Beach, and you can only stay there for like 2 weeks. And I was on my last night there. I had to get all new social medias when I got out, so I lost a lot of my contacts or haven't been able to have that. Anyways, this guy that I knew from back in my drug dealing days has a roofing and remodeling business and contacted me. He was in Florida at the time. He's like, dude, I'll fly out here. Bought me a ticket. Said, hey, you come out here, you work for me, you make a lot of money, which they do make a lot of money. And so I flew out there the next day, showed up, and he told me I have a vehicle to drive, I'd have work. Nothing.
Nothing.
Get out there. Um, this house that we're living in, really nice house, newish house, was a dump. This guy would eat his order food, eat it, and leave it. It took me 5 hours to surface clean this house, and I am very cleanly, like things where they should be. It makes life easier for me. And I show up. His employees are basically moving out and moving on. I don't really know what happened there because he says one thing and they say another. Um, So the two employees that he had basically were moving on. Soon after, his son that was out there working with him went home for Christmas. So I was left here with this guy that's codependent. He has social anxiety, won't go into a store, won't go into a restaurant. And instead of selling roofs, I was his bitch boy.
Damn.
Open the door, get this, get that, go to the store for me. And I was like, dude, I came out here to sell roofs, man. I came out here to make money.
We got a
Hey,
guy
what's up,
named
David?
David J. What is up, brother? Where are you at? I think you said Tijuana, right?
Yeah, I'm in Tijuana right now.
This is one of your friends here, David. I don't think I know that guy.
I don't know him. I don't think I know him.
I don't think I do either.
Anyways, what's up, David? Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. So Josh, let me ask you, the big question here was like, what are your takeaways from all this? Like, I don't want to make it cheesy. Like, if you could do it over again, would you do it? But I'm sure this was like a life-changing experience for you. And I'm wondering like how you're processing that now that you're out and, what you're looking back on your last, 4 years or so, like, are you going to be okay? I hope you have some prospects and you land on your feet, but like, what's going on in your mind?
So that's kind of what I'm trying to build up to here with getting, I moved out to Florida for this job. Long story short, job didn't work out. I lost everything I owned except for basically a small backpack and clothes on my back. So I'm back to square one as far as like that. Another opportunity arise to go down to Yucatan, Mexico to manage hotels. They weren't ready for that.
David, yeah, he said he tuned in for the first time.
Okay, cool, man. Thanks.
Yes, this is an interview. And David, we actually did a previous interview from Indonesia when Josh was locked up. So this is our follow-up here. Yeah. Carry on, Josh.
So got jerked around going down to Mexico when these guys weren't ready to start their hotel. So I'm back in Southern California, TJ. I've only been back for like a week now. I'm putting out things to my resumes, trying to find work. Through the grapevine, somebody has offered to help me with credit card processing. So if anybody needs credit card processing, HR, we have, if you have 10 employees or more, we can get you free healthcare for those. Yeah, Andy, it does. Jail sucks.
Yeah, thanks for tuning in, Andy.
Thanks. And so I'm working on that. My buddy that's here in Tijuana knows a lot of the business owners, Arco. He knows one of the brothers that owns Arco, a lot of other very, very large businesses. So we're trying to get the credit card processing in there, HR, all that stuff. If you guys are interested in any of those services, you guys contact me. I'll send you an email. Pretty simple, straightforward stuff. So that's one thing I'm working on. And then, just trying to get some steady income, really trying to make ends meet, trying to figure out my actual home. So it's been difficult, man. And I'm not going to lie, man. It's pretty thin here. It's,
you have any like family floating around the States? Or?
My mom is here in San Diego and she does what she can. She's basically retired. So fixed income, doesn't have a lot of money. Her and her husband, they do all right, but they don't have a place for me and they don't have, extra money to be giving me all the time. So there's very limited resources.
Are there any, I was curious, is there any criminal charges that follow you back from Indonesia? Or are you just like,
that's a one good thing. Well, yeah, I have nothing as far as criminal, I've had my I'm on Quick, which is a work app for restaurants and stuff like that, and they do a criminal background screening. Nothing showed up.
That's
Last
good.
Last Prisoner Project does a criminal screening on you, a deep dive criminal screening, and they told me that. So nothing came back with them. So I have no criminal. I can cross the border whenever I want. As I'm here in Tijuana, I crossed the border yesterday. I have nothing. Um, as far as criminal history, my stuff is so old it's basically fallen off my record. So I'm squeaky clean as far as that goes. If I was to have anybody pull up my history 10 years or older, it's basically doesn't show up. So I'm fortunate in that. I'm fortunate that my credit is actually pretty decent. I have a 700 plus credit score without any payment history. Yeah. So, I've got some good things. No, I don't have
some silver linings in there.
some silver linings, but then, I don't have any income and I don't have a vehicle and I don't have this and that. So, I got to look at the positives and overcome the negatives.
Weren't you like a professional skier at one point? Have you ever?
I was a professional snowboarder.
Have you ever thought about like teaching lessons or something like that?
I have thought about going back into. I mean, even if I was to go work at a resort, I thought about that. I got out in time to be able to go work at a resort. I kind of decided not to do that. Because of the relocation, and which I could have gone to Salt Lake, and I have friends there that would have helped me give me a place to stay and whatnot. I'm trying to deal with the cold here at Tijuana, San Diego area, and I was like, man, I don't want to go deal with even colder situation. And I kind of have more support here in San Diego, even though it's not a lot. Like, I do have friends, I do have some family here. And so I talked to one of my good friends. His son's actually in prison for marijuana out in Maryland. And after this Yucatan trip, he's like, dude, you need to go back to San Diego or Southern California area and just lock it down. Stay there and get your shit back together. And so that's what I'm focusing on. Just trying to put things together, trying to make it happen.
Dave says, how can I check my credit score legit? Credit Karma, my dude.
Credit Karma, man.
Freecreditreport.com.
Yeah, man. It's super easy to do.
Facts or something. Yeah, there's a few of them. So Josh, I'm about at the end of my list here. First of all, I want to say thank you for reaching back out, man, and
Right.
sharing your time with us and your story here today. But at the end of the show, I always leave a little time for the guests. If there's anything we missed or any shameless plugs or shout outs that you want to do, now's the time. That, and we'll fucking sign it off. Thanks,
Yeah,
man.
like I said, if you guys go follow me on Instagram, author Joshua Emery _. I'm working on writing my story, my book. And I've got a crazy life story to share with you all from childhood. It wasn't a good childhood, and it's been a battle. My whole life has been a battle, and it's hopefully I can get to a point where it's not a battle anymore, and I'm living a fruitful and productive lifestyle.
I hope so too, man. I'm pulling for you.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate you.
All right. Well, if that's all you got, I'm going to pull myself back up and we're going to sign it off.
All right. Thanks, man. Thanks everybody out there for tuning in. Appreciate you guys.
Guys, it's here's Andy. Best of luck going forward. Thanks, Andy.
Thanks, Andy.
Yeah, guys, it's Josh Emery. I'm your host, Caleb Teskey. Remember, the devil's in the details, and the details are in the fine print. Stick around for a second, Josh.